Imagine living in a farm full of potatoes and eggplants, and being part of an epic family. Your dad is super strong and buff, your mom is beautiful and strong too, and you're living in happiness. But then you meet a poor girl, and a series of unfortunate events leads to the destruction of your farm and the entire village. What a tragedy. And that's the story of Alan, the king of fried potatoes. Without further ado, my friend, let's dive in.
現実は苦しみと痛みと虚しさだけが漂っている。
Our story begins with Sane, who is the hero of our tale. He was harvesting potatoes, and everything was just perfect. After hours of work, Sane managed to gather 1 box of potatoes. San tells Alan, "What do you think about taking a break?" But suddenly, he saw 14 more boxes of potatoes and was stunned. "Wow, how did you manage to collect all this?" Alan said, "It's not just me. Farming is something amazing." Suddenly, Alan's mother got really mad and gave Sane a serious scolding, asking why he let Alan work alone. Despite that, Sane still managed to fill another box. After that, Alan took some potatoes and went to their neighbors to share a bit of the harvest. Wow, neighbors are closer than family, Alan thought, and indeed, he delivered the potatoes to the neighbors who thanked him. But suddenly, a group of people started beating up a little girl named Olivia. She tried to escape, but dropped some vegetables. Alan was surprised and asked the neighbors who the girl was. The old woman replied that her family must be dead, or they might have abandoned her. She had heard that the girl lives in the mountains. Alan was deeply upset. Suddenly, the girl bit a man's hand and ran towards Alan, stealing some of the potatoes he had and heading into the forest. But Ellen caught up with her and reached her hiding spot. When Olivia saw Ellen, she ran away because she was scared. But she couldn't resist the smell of the food Ellen had, so she stopped. Alan said, "I'm not mad at you, just take this food instead of those old potatoes." Olivia was still scared and hid behind a tree. Alan understood the situation, left the food on the ground, and walked away. He continued doing this every day, bringing her food and leaving it for her. One day, he brought a nice chicken sandwich. This time, Olivia was standing in front of him and wasn't afraid. Alan recognized her, and just as his stomach started growling, Olivia told him, But suddenly, someone grabbed her and said, "Finally, we found you, potato thief." Alan begged, "Please, let her go. Olivia won't steal again, I promise." The man replied, "No way. She stole a lot of food and we have to pay for the loss." "Wow, so you're trying to convince me that this poor girl stole the entire crop? What a level of cruelty." Alain was pleading with them, saying he would plant food and repay all their debts, but the man refused. Suddenly, Sane arrives and asks what the problem is. The man is shocked because Sane is well known in their village. The man tells him that the girl stole their crops and they need to sell her at the slave market to make some money. Sane responds, "There's no need for that. Take this rice and let the girl go." The man is shocked by the offer, but Sane insists, saying, "There's no problem, just take the girl and leave." The man agrees, takes the rice, and leaves. Alain then tells his father, "Wasn't that our food supply?" Sen replies, "Yes, and it looks like I'll be sleeping in the street because if Lucica finds out, she'll kill me, haha." For your information, Alain's mother's name is Lucica. Anyway, Alain apologizes, saying it's all his fault. Sane reassures him, saying, "Don't worry, I'll find a solution." Suddenly, Olivia returns the bag of potatoes she stole earlier. Sane says, "Good, these potatoes will be great," and then decides to adopt Olivia. 2 years later, Olivia asks Alain, "What do you think about having lunch together?" Alain replies, "Unfortunately, I can't. I still have crops that need attention." Suddenly, Alain's friend, Tetsia, comes running from giant insects, specifically giant bees. Sane tells them not to worry, saying he'll protect them. But before he can act, Lucica charges in and destroys all the bees in less than a second. What power and beauty! Tetsia thanks her and praises her, but Sane gets angry, accusing him of flirting with his wife right in front of him. "You're in for a rough night," he jokes. Lucica tells him to grow up, adding that they need to go to the capital to find a bigger house. Ellen protests, saying their current house is fine and there's no need to move. Sen responds, "The important thing is that we need to leave now, so take care of the farm." They leave, and Alan asks Tetsia why the bees were chasing him when there are no bees in this area. Tetsia pulls out a map and explains that there's a treasure in the area that they need to find. Ellen doesn't want to go, but Tetsia insists, saying they need to find a gem or something nice for Olivia. They go into the forest, and Alan asks Tetsuya if he knows why Olivia likes being around him all the time. Tetsuya reluctantly explains that the villagers harass Olivia when she's alone. Alain remembers this and realizes that might be why Sane is looking for a new house away from the village. Tetsuya says, "Let's hurry up and find the treasure and get back." After a few minutes, they reach a dead end, but suddenly the ground collapses and they fall into a strange tunnel. To their surprise, there are ancient buildings in the tunnel, but Alain faints and experiences a strange vision. The shock is that a giant volcanic dragon appears before him and attacks. After a while, he hears Olivia waking him up, and they are in a tent. Alain asks Tetsuya, "We were in the forest, and now we're in a strange place. What happened?" Tetsuya explains that the volcano erupted again after they reached the strange cave, and due to the volcanic ash, the village was completely destroyed. Everything was ruined: crops, food, everything. Even Alain's parents haven't returned from the capital, and food is now scarce. The villagers are trying to survive until the capital locates the village and sends food and water. Alain goes to check on their farm, but it's covered in volcanic ash with nothing left alive. Suddenly, Alain feels a strange pain in his chest and apologizes to Olivia for not being able to provide her with any food. Days pass, and Olivia starts giving her food to Alain because he is sick. Sadly, one day, Olivia dies from starvation, leading to immense sorrow. 15 years later, Alain starts planting and harvesting in his own farm, always wishing Olivia were still alive. Then, one day, the farmer had harvested the entire farm, and his farming level suddenly increased to level 10. Tista greeted him, and the farmer said, "Look at this, all my farming levels are now maxed out. Maxed out, my friend." Tista replied, "That's expected from you, and your hunting level is also exceptionally high. This is because you helped me a while ago with a fishing mission, and your performance was legendary. You reached the highest level at an incredible speed." The farmer checked his status, and Tista was shocked because the farmer had 75,000 attack power. What? But how? He's just a farmer, guys. Hours later, the farmer set off for the kingdom to sell his vegetables, like radishes and tomatoes. He was relaxed, eating a carrot, and everything was going well. But suddenly, he saw a giant dragon attacking a group of struggling adventurers. The farmer said, "I must distract it quickly, so the adventurers can escape." And he threw his carrot at the dragon. It seemed like he was trying to tempt the dragon with food. What an epic plan. Suddenly, the dragon exploded. What just happened? The adventurers were shocked. I was shocked. Even the author was shocked. But the farmer just ate another carrot and headed to the kingdom as if nothing had happened. What a cool hero. The adventurers followed the tracks of the farmer's cart to the kingdom. Hours later, the farmer entered the capital, but suddenly he saw a strange person holding a girl and flying rapidly toward the gate. But our hero dashed forward and saved the girl. The man got angry and attacked, but the farmer used a strange skill, reading the future. He grabbed the man and gave him a beating. The girl thanked him, but the farmer suddenly remembered that he needed to deliver the vegetables to the merchant quickly, or he wouldn't get paid. He delivered all the goods just in time, and of course, our hero was very happy because he sold everything, and the merchant was pleased as well. The farmer decided to return to his farm, but the gate guard stopped him and refused to let him go. The farmer begged, No, please don't imprison me. I'm just a poor farmer, nothing more." Suddenly, the girl he saved spoke up and said, "I'm the one who ordered them to stop you because I needed to talk to you." She introduced herself as the princess of the kingdom, and her name was Valis. The farmer was shocked. Impossible. I'm just a poor farmer, so why would a princess like you want to talk to me?" Valis replied, No, you saved my life, and now I must reward you. Since you're a farmer, how about serving in the royal court?" The farmer was stunned. Impossible. I'd rather die than serve them." But he couldn't say that to her face, or else it would be bye-bye to his head. He thought, serving in the royal court? No way. Valis said, "What do you think?" The farmer nervously replied, That's an honor, but I'm just a poor farmer. I can't take on such a difficult task." He tried to escape, but Valis grabbed him by the neck and said, "Come here, we're not done talking." The farmer cried out, No, please. I just want to go back to my fields and live my life with my lovely potatoes and carrots." Valis replied, "All right, I'll give you 33,000 square meters to plant your tomatoes and potatoes." The farmer was shocked but suspicious. "Why are you so insistent?" Valis explained, "It's because you defeated that strange man earlier. His power was moderate with 500 attack points." The farmer was confused. "What's with these points?" Valis explained that these points determine your rank in society. A normal person has 60 points, an adventurer has 130, a knight has 600, and the highest is the legendary adventurer with 1,000 points. She asked him, "Can you show me your attack points?" The farmer thought, "No way, I can't show her anything," because he had 75,000 points. Suddenly, a group of adventurers arrived at the kingdom. They were the ones the farmer saved from the legendary dragon. One of the adventurers told the guard, "A mysterious person saved us and killed the dragon with a strange weapon." His cart was heading toward the capital. Queen Valis thought, someone strong with a cart and a strange weapon? That must be you, right? But suddenly, the farmer took the opportunity to run away. He said, "There's no way I'm working in that royal palace. I want to live my life without any problems or headaches." Meanwhile, in the royal palace, there was a meeting between the king and the guards. It turned out that the demon army had begun moving toward the kingdom. The disaster was that the demons were of all kinds: ghouls, orcs, dragons, everything. The guard told the king, "The scouts say this is definitely going to be a full-scale attack on the kingdom." The king was shocked. But how? The demon king was killed in the last battle, and it was an unknown hero who killed him. The king continued, "After that war, we made a peace treaty with those demons." But the chief guard, Cecil, said, "If they're moving, then it means a large part of those demons are against the treaty. I also heard that their leader is the demon Romeo." The king was surprised. "How is that possible? He's the one who requested the treaty in the first place." Cecil replied, "The important thing now is that you and the princess must escape from the palace immediately." At this time, the farmer had returned home, exhausted and wanting to sleep. But when he grabbed the doorknob, it broke in his hand. "Just my luck," he thought. "Not the right time at all, but I'll fix it tomorrow. Right now, I need to sleep." Suddenly, Tista knocked on the door. "Hey, are you there?" The farmer replied, "What brought you here at this time? Let me rest for a bit." Tista told him, "We have to escape the village quickly." The farmer was surprised. "What's going on?" Tista explained that a group of demons was moving, and if they entered the village, they would destroy it completely. The farmer was shocked. "Wait, tomorrow is the harvest day. No, my beautiful crops will be ruined." And he rushed to the farm. "Food comes first, my friend." Luckily, the demons didn't ruin the crops. The farmer saw them walking past the village as if they were heading to a specific place. The farmer thought, "I should stop them, but wait, I'm just a farmer and this isn't my job." He thought again, "If those monsters destroy the city, the merchants will die, and if the merchants die, I won't be able to sell my crops. What bad luck." Meanwhile, the king and Cecil were heading to a place far from the kingdom. But Valis felt something strange and told the king, "By the way, this road is blocked." Sure enough, moments later, they encountered a giant mountain in the middle of the road. The king told them, "Don't worry, I'll use my magic to find the nearest clear path in the area." But Cecil interrupted, "No need, you weak human," and he cast a strange spell, stabbing the king. Everyone was shocked. The guard said, "Impossible, impossible. Could the chief guard be a traitor?" Cecil laughed at them, revealing his true form. It turned out that Cecil was the demon Romeo, disguised as the knight commander to lure the king away from his guards. Romeo easily defeated the remaining guards with his demonic magic. Romeo said, "Instead of destroying the entire city as the demon king wanted, I could just kill you now, assume your identity, and rule the kingdom without anyone noticing." He attacked, but the king used his magic to create barriers. Romeo mocked him. "Is that all you've got, you weakling? By the way, I have a question. How did you kill my dragon? And how is the princess still here? She should have been kidnapped by the person I sent. But never mind, I'll kill you now." And he unleashed a strange dragon-like skill, shattering the barriers completely. What insane power! Romeo was about to kill them, but suddenly the farmer burst into the scene and shattered the ground with his sickle. Romeo was shocked. "Who are you, and how did you cancel my attack?" The farmer replied, "I am the legendary farmer, owner of the Great Potato Farm." Romeo retorted, "How could a poor farmer like you face my demonic attack?" The farmer explained, "I had to strike the ground with great force to bring up the dirt from below and push the dirt on top down. A lot of complicated stuff, my friend." Romeo was enraged and attacked him at incredible speed. But the farmer caught the sword with his hand and slammed Romeo into the wall. Romeo exploded in anger, used strange magic, killed all the nearby demons, and absorbed their power completely. The disaster was that Romeo transformed into his true form, a giant demon with a level of 78. Unbelievable, Romeo said. I never expected a weak human like you to make me use all my power. Valis warned the farmer, run quickly, this demon is extremely powerful. But our hero wasn't fazed at all. Romeo attacked him, but the farmer punched him so hard that he literally sent Romeo flying. What a humiliation for Romeo. The remaining demons were terrified and fled from the scene. On the second day, the king thanks Alan and offers him titles and rewards for saving them. But as we know, our friend only cares about living with his potatoes and carrots. Simple dreams of the humble, haha. However, Valis tells the king that Alan isn't interested in these rewards, but she knows what he really wants. For the second time, Valis suggests to him that he take a piece of land, 33,000 acres next to the palace, but with one condition: he must register with the Warriors Guild. Alan is puzzled, wondering why, since his job is just farming. Valis explains that these monsters won't stop attacking, and they will surely come back stronger. With his legendary strength, the capital will be safe. Alan gives in, saying, "Okay, I'll help you guys." And indeed, he takes his reward. The problem is that the land is a barren desert with no food or water. Those sneaky devils tricked him. The next day, Alan and Valis go to the market. Alan is extremely happy because the market is full of potatoes, cabbage, carrots, everything really. Valis says to him, "You seem more interested in food, right?" Alan responds, "Of course, because I'm a professional farmer." Suddenly, Alan is shocked. Valis asks him what happened, and it turns out that Alan saw a shawarma skewer. Haha, what a guy. Alan orders 2 shawarmas, one for himself and the other also for himself. Just kidding, he gives one to Valis. They start eating, and everything is great. Alan asks Valis, "By the way, how can a princess like you walk around the city without anyone noticing?" Valis tells him not to worry, because thanks to this tool, no one will recognize her as the princess. It changes her appearance and energy. Alan then asks, "What about the royal palace? Surely they're worried about you." Valis reassures him, saying, "Don't worry, sweetheart. There's a maid who looks exactly like me, and she's taking my place until I return." What a genius plan. Valis continues, explaining that her job is to see what the people eat and how they live. Honestly, even I was convinced, haha. After some time, Alan and Valis arrive at the guild. Alan asks, "Are you sure they won't notice you're the princess?" Valis replies, "Don't blow our cover. Remember, my name is Phalia, not Valis." Alan gets even more nervous, thinking they're definitely going to get caught. Moments later, they enter the guild, which is filled with adventurers. Suddenly, a strange man approaches them, saying, "Is it really you, the legendary warrior who saved the king?" Alan is shocked, denying it. "No man, I'm just a farmer." The adventurer takes him to the registration area, where a woman named Helen greets him. Alan says hello, but then his stomach growls, demanding food. How embarrassing. After a while, Helen gives him food and gets him ready. She tells him, "It says in your file that you're just a farmer, but why would a farmer want to become an adventurer?" Alan explains, "Someone gave me land and asked me in return to become an adventurer and protect the capital from savage monsters." Helen is amazed, saying, "You must be really strong then." Alan responds, No, I'm really weak." Suddenly, the adventurers at the gate shout, "We finally met you," and announce to everyone that this is the man who killed the legendary dragon. The secret is out. Everyone is shocked. An S-rank adventurer. What greatness is this? Alan cries out, No, I'm just a weak farmer, I swear." Helen tells him, "If you need any information, ask these adventurers. They can help you out." But Alan thinks, "They've already exposed me." Haha. The adventurers introduce themselves. The bald warrior is named Jack, the little girl is Lamia, and the archer is Luke. Lamia tells Alan, "Get ready so we can fight monsters together." Alan responds, No, I'm just a farmer." Lamia insists, "Doesn't matter, just get ready and we'll fight potatoes together." Hahaha, that girl is hilarious. After a while, they leave. Alan thinks to himself, "The more I interact with adventurers, the farther I feel from my beloved farm." Helen tells him, Now, you're going to receive your first mission, and it's going to be a rank G task. She gives him a paper and explains that the mission is to gather herbs from the forest, warning him to watch out for the monsters. Alan is shocked. Monsters? Helen adds, "By the way, you can't go like that. You need to take weapons with you." Alan refuses, saying, No, I've never used any kind of weapon before." Helen insists, Okay, take this cloak. It will protect you because it's made with defensive magic." Alan thanks her but declines, but Helen is insistent. Finally, he wears the cloak, and as soon as Helen sees him in it, she freezes in place. Alan is confused, asking, "Miss, are you okay?" Helen explains, Sorry, you just remind me of my little brother. You look just like him." Alan is puzzled, asking, "So this cloak belonged to your brother, or what?" Helen quickly clarifies, No, it's just a gift from me." She wishes him luck on his mission, and Alan and Valis leave the guild. Alan says to Valis, "I can't take a princess like you on this mission." Valis responds, "I wasn't planning to come with you anyway, goodbye." His plan backfired, ha ha ha. After hours of gathering herbs, there was only one left to complete the mission. Suddenly, Alan sees a small piece of metal, a monster's emblem. Alan is puzzled, noticing that it's different from the emblems of the other monsters he knows. What kind of monster could it be? Suddenly, a ghoul attacks him, but at the last moment, Jack saves him and kills the ghoul. Alan thanks him, and moments later, Lamia and Luke arrive at the scene. Alan asks them if they recognize the emblem. Jack says, "Yes, I've seen it before. It belongs to an unknown creature, but I've heard it's associated with a black dragon, although no one has ever seen it." Lamia adds, "By the way, you could sell it for a high price." Suddenly, the place is filled with demonic energy. Oh no. The surprise? A demonic black dragon appears. Everyone is frozen in fear, unable to move. Even Alan, the strongest in the kingdom, is terrified. But the dragon walks right past them, as if they weren't even there. Alan tries to check the demon's stats, and to his shock, its power is over 230,000, 3 to 4 times stronger than Alan's own strength. At that time, back in the city, Helen has a strange, blurry dream that she doesn't understand. What could it mean? The next day, an old woman checks on Helen, who turns out to be Helen's adoptive mother. Suddenly, Alan arrives, and Helen asks him how the mission went. Alan's face changes colors from the shock of seeing the monster, and he tells her that he needs to report a monster immediately. They gather at the guildmaster's office. Jack explains that Alan saw the dragon's stats, and its power was 230,000. Everyone is stunned. 230,000? How is that possible? Luke says, it must be Maleficent, the legendary dragon. Upon hearing the name, Helen becomes very ill, but insists on hearing everything about the monster. Jack suggests they should completely close off the forest and forbid anyone from entering. Alan shows them the monster's emblem. When Helen sees the emblem, she remembers everything. Long ago, the monster attacked her village and destroyed it entirely. Helen and her brother managed to escape, but the monster didn't leave them alone and killed her brother right in front of her eyes, leaving Helen to live. But why did it let her live? Suddenly, Helen faints. Alan waits outside, worried about her. The old woman tells him not to worry, she'll wake up soon. And she shares that 15 years ago, she and her husband were walking along the riverbank when they found Helen unconscious. Since then, the old woman has raised Helen as her own daughter. The old woman wonders aloud, but how does Helen know this demonic dragon? Alan reassures her, saying, "Don't worry, I'll solve this entire case." The old woman is impressed, but says, "Stop being silly, you're still a beginner. There's no way you can fight a legendary dragon like that." Alan responds, "No, I have to help my friends no matter what." The old woman is amazed and gives him magical potions to aid in his recovery. After a few hours, Alan goes to the library and gathers many books. He thinks to himself, wait, aren't I supposed to be a farmer? How did I get caught up in all of this? Ha ha. But he pulls himself together and starts searching for any information about the monster. Unfortunately, there isn't any information about such powerful monsters. Suddenly, Alan has a brilliant idea. Since this incident happened 15 years ago, I'm sure I'll find the information in records from that time. Brilliant. So, he goes to the librarian, but unfortunately, she refuses to give him anything. Our guy keeps trying to persuade her, even offering her money. The librarian flatly says no. Suddenly, Vales enters the library. The librarian is shocked to see the princess herself. Oh my. Vales tells her, I'm just here to meet N. N seizes the opportunity and asks if he can see the records. Of course, the librarian quickly agrees. Ha ha ha. He had to befriend her, or it would have been goodbye forever for her. So, N starts reading the book and finds out that Helen is from a village called Hanel. But the problem is that this village was completely wiped out by a giant black dragon. After that, the dragon disappeared and no one saw it again. They confirmed it was the black dragon because of the symbols it left behind. N says, now I'm sure. I must go to that village tomorrow. Vales tells him, that's right, we need to explore it fully. N is shocked and says, no, I'll go alone. I can't take you with me or the king will kill me. But unfortunately, N gives in, and she ends up going with him. When they arrive, N hears the voice of a child calling him. He follows the voice until he reaches a strange grave. At that moment, the ghost of a child appears, and it turns out that the child is Helen's brother, Ray. Our guy starts talking to him, but Valets can't see or hear anything. She asks, who are you talking to? N replies, the child. Valets responds, oh, the child. Wait, what child? I don't see anything. Haha. N is shocked. Ray tells him, don't worry, I'm a ghost and you can see me because of the robe you're wearing.
Valis says to Elin, what on earth are you talking about? Who are you speaking to? Ellen, surprised, asks her, can't you see this child? Ray responds, unfortunately, I am a ghost, and I have been, waiting for a long time for someone to come to this village. But tell me, how do you have that? Magical cloak? Eileen replies, I got it from a girl working at the Warriors Guild named Helen. Ray, it then says, that explains it, that's why you can see me. By the way, that cloak belongs to me and is filled with defensive magic. Aelin understands the situation and tries putting the cloak on Valis. Suddenly, Valis screams, oh my god, a ghost, a ghost. There's a flying ghost. Ellen quickly covers her mouth to stop her from screaming, and Ray introduces himself as Helen's younger brother. Ray then tells them, unfortunately, Helen is the only one who survived from this village. Aelin responds, but Helen has no memories of her past. Ray explains, that's because she used a strange magic on herself to seal her memories so she wouldn't remember anything. Ray then asks Elin to protect his sister from the giant dragon. Elin, puzzled, asks why. Ray begins to explain. In the past, Ray was practicing sword fighting alone in the forest, but slipped and fell on his face. Helen arrived at his location and started treating him, telling him to stop playing around or he'd hurt himself. She also said they should return to the village. Suddenly, the black dragon appeared and destroyed the entire village. By the time Ray and Helen returned to the village, everything was in ruins, and the dragon was busy killing all the humans. What a disaster. Ray and Helen decided to flee, or they would meet the same fate as the rest of the villagers. They ran into the forest, but the disaster was that the dragon found them and started scaring them as it fed on fear. Suddenly, Helen fell to the ground. Ray tried to save her, but the dragon reached her and was about to kill her. However, Ray threw a knife at the dragon's eye. But to his surprise, the dragon wasn't affected at all. The tragedy was that the dragon killed Ray right in front of Helen, a truly sorrowful moment. The dragon then said to Helen, yes, let's enjoy this. I've killed many humans, so I'll let you live. But in 15 years, I will return, kill you, and destroy the entire city. And indeed, the dragon disappeared and Ray died at the hands of the black dragon, while Helen lived in shock from her brother's death. The sadness, my friends, is overwhelming. Back to Aelin, Ray explains that the dragon intentionally leaves one person alive so that they can tell the rest of the people what happened, spreading fear among them. After some time, the dragon returns to feed on their fear, a terrifying and brutal method, honestly. Ray asks Ellen to save his sister and the city, but Aelin says, unfortunately, that dragon is 1,000,000 times stronger than me, and there's no way I can kill it alone. Ray responds, you don't need to use strength. Elin, surprised, asks, what do you mean? Ray explains that since the dragon feeds on fear, they should fight it with the power of justice and friendship. This suddenly turns into a scene from Space Toon or Fairy Tale, where the hero gets cornered and then, oh, the power of friendship saves the day. Haha. And so, Ellen picks up Valis like a sack of rice and flies, my friend. All of this because Helen will turn 15 that day. Valis shouts, "What's wrong with you? At least carry me like a princess." Elin replies, "Sorry, but this is the fastest way to harvest potatoes. I mean, to escape." After a few minutes, they arrive at the capital. Valis says, "I'll gather all the soldiers and protect the capital. You protect Helen." They part ways, but by that time, Helen was in the forest, and the disaster was that. She had been drugged by the monster and was walking slowly toward it. Suddenly, the dragon appeared and said, "As I promised, I've returned after 15 years, and now I will feed on your fear and kill all your friends." Helen was frozen with fear, remembering everything about her past. The dragon worsened the situation by saying, "You are the reason your brother died and the village was destroyed." "Damn that filthy dragon," the dragon continued. "Now, I'll kill all the people in the city, and it'll all be your fault." Helen was in a pitiful state, shocked by the words. After a few moments, she grabbed the knife, ready to end it all. And of course, the dragon was enjoying himself since Haad was absorbing energy for free. Helen begged him, "Please kill me and spare the city." Dragon replied, "In your dreams, sweetie. I'll kill you and all the people too." But suddenly, Ellen grabbed her hand and said, "There's no way I'll let you do that." At that moment, the dragon got angry and smashed Elin into a tree. But Elin wasn't harmed at all thanks to Ray's magical cloak. Helen screamed, "Please, please run." But Elin didn't listen to her and punched the dragon so hard that he broke one of its teeth. The dragon got back up, even more furious. "How can a lowly, insignificant human like you affect me this way?" Elin replied, "I'm not just any human, my friend. I'm the legendary potato farmer." Helen thanked him for saving her, but Ellen knew that there was no way he could defeat this dragon with sheer strength. Elin observed the dragon's condition, but its power remained unchanged, unaffected by his punch. Suddenly, the dragon lunged at him, but Elin dodged all its attacks and even managed to strike back. Haha, man, this guy is tough, you might think, but unfortunately, the good guys don't always win. The dragon eventually overpowered Ellen, knocking him to the ground and was about to crush him. But Ellen resisted with all his might, and at that moment, the dragon unleashed hellfire, burning the entire place and sending Ellen flying from the impact. Helen screamed, "Run, run quickly!" But Ellen replied, no way a pathetic dragon like this is going to beat a legendary farmer like me." The dragon laughed and said, "Stop your nonsense, I'm beating you to a pulp." The dragon used hellfire again, but this time Elin dodged it. Helen pleaded, "Please, that's enough. I don't want anyone elsey to die because of me." Ellen got angry, grabbed her hand, and ran. Helen said, "I'm the reason Ray died, and I don't want anyone else to die because of me." Elin responded, No, you're not the reason. By the way, I met Ray, and he told me to give you a message when you remembered everything from the past." In the message, Ray said, "I'm happy I protected my sister, and there's no way you're to blame for what happened." Wow, what a flood of drama. But because of Ray's words, Helen cheered up a bit, and that had an effect on the dragon. Indeed, the place began to light up with justice and peace, and who knows what else. The dragon cried out, No, damn your heads. Fear and terror are the only solutions." It was desperate to survive in any way possible, but Eileen replied, "I know your weakness. It's that you die from happiness and joy." What is this, people? Where's the action? Where's the potatoes? I mean, where's the excitement? Ha ha ha. Suddenly, the dragon became extremely nervous and attacked Ellen with all its might. But of course, Ellen delivered a punch that completely destroyed it, shattering it, my friend. This was the same thing that happened with Romeo, the Demon King, remember? And within moments, the dragon turned to dust. Helen checked on him. "Are you okay? Let me see your wounds." Elin said, "No need, I'm perfectly fine." But suddenly, Helen stabbed him with a knife. What on earth just happened? Ellen was shocked. How? Why? And what just happened? But Helen let out a terrifying laugh. What in the world just happened? Aelin tried to drink the healing elixir, but unfortunately, he slipped and it fell out of his hand. Damn, bad luck. Suddenly, Helen attacked him, but Ellen barely dodged her, shocked and confused. No way. What's going on? How is Helen attacking me? It turns out that the black dragon had entered Helen's body before it disappeared, but Ellen didn't know that. Helen said, "Unfortunately, I wanted to kill you quickly, but it seems I've failed. No matter, you'll die, from the bleeding anyway." But Ellen wasn't one to give up easily. He tried to use his healing magic, but Helen didn't give him a chance, attacking him again. Suddenly, a giant white dragon appeared and saved Elin. Helen got extremely angry and said, "Finally, you've woken up, Mirage." Oh boy, the excitement is ramping up, my friend. To explain, Mirage is a legendary dragon like the black dragon, but he's the good version. Ellen was completely shocked and couldn't understand anything. Just a moment ago, Helen attacked him, and now a white dragon appears? Poor guy, his mind was blown. Mirage said to him, "Focus, the black dragon is controlling this girl's body." Elin was stunned, and Maleficent, the black dragon, said, "Unfortunately, I wanted to have a little fun, but I was caught too quickly. No matter, I just need to kill you now." Mirage told Elin, "Use my power and defeat this demon." And indeed, Elin absorbed all of Mirage's power, and because of this immense power, his body healed completely. But as a result, Mirage couldn't do anything else at that moment. Meanwhile, in the capital, Valis was gathering all the knights and adventurers in the kingdom, instructing the guards, "We will protect the gates, and the moment the demon appears, we'll attack him with all our might." Wow, they're sitting comfortably behind the walls while our hero fights the dragon alone in the forest. What a betrayal, my friend. Back to Ellen, Mirage said, "Unfortunately, the girl's body won't last long. You need to destroy the demon quickly, or her body will be completely destroyed." The demon seized the opportunity and taunted Elin. "It seems this girl is important to you. What will you do now? Surely you won't kill her, right?" Suddenly, Elin punched Helen hard in the stomach. Haha. Wow, what's happening here? The demon was shocked. No way, you're going to kill this girl." Elin replied, "I would never kill her, but I will destroy you and save Helen." This was all because Ellen noticed that Helen was trying to send him a message, even though her body was under the demon's control. The message was, "Please kill this demon at any cost." After a few moments, the cunning demon tricked him and used all its power to enter Ellen's body. But the funny part was that when the demon entered Ellen's mind, it found nothing at all. Haha. Ellen's mind was completely empty, but then it suddenly saw someone working, planting and plowing the land. It turned out that Ellen's entire mind was focused on potatoes and carrots. Haha. And all he cared about was farming and harvesting potatoes. The demon was shocked. No way. How did I take over this guy's body and all his thoughts are just about tomatoes and eggplants? Suddenly, Elin repelled the demon's attack and forced it out of his body. At that moment, Mirage used all his power to destroy the demon completely, and then he disappeared as well. What a strange battle! On the second day, Elin woke up to find Helen and Felice sitting next to him. When Felice saw that he had woken up, she was overjoyed, exclaiming, "Finally, you're awake." Elin asked Helen about what happened to the demon. Helen replied, "Thanks to you and Mirage, the demon disappeared completely. But unfortunately, Mirage used all his strength and vanished afterward." Felice was shocked. "Could you really be talking about Mirage, the legendary dragon?" Ellen confirmed, "Yes, Mirage suddenly appeared and saved me from the demon." Felice understood the situation. Ellen then asked Helen, "By the way, is your body okay? I mean after the demon possessed you?" Helen assured him, No, I'm fine. Look, I've even gained something from it," and she transformed her hand into a dragon's hand. Ellen was shocked. "Oh no, the demon is still here. We need to kill him right away." Helen replied, No, silly. The demon is completely gone. But because of him, I gained this power, and I can hide it too." She then returned her hand to normal. Both Ellen and Felice were amazed. Helen continued, "Not only that, but I can also transform my legs," she joked, showing off her new powers. Helen then said, Since this demon killed so many people with his dark powers, now I'm going to use those powers to save everyone. She joked that the demon must be furious now, then asked, by the way, who's this girl? Ellen got nervous and didn't know what to say, but Felice quickly responded, I'm his childhood friend, and my name is Felicia. Ellen added, yeah, she's from my village too. And Helen believed them. Suddenly, a group of adventurers entered the room and started congratulating Helen and Ellen for defeating the world's strongest monster, the Black Dragon. One bald adventurer said, I didn't think you could have killed that monster on your own. Luke chimed in, by the way, if I had gotten there before you, I would have destroyed that monster with a single blow. Lamia replied, yeah, right. You were struggling with a tiny goblin yesterday. The banter continued until the old lady scolded them. Quiet down, all of you. Ellen must be tired after that mission, but Ellen insisted, no, I'm perfectly fine and not feeling tired at all. Jack then suggested we should celebrate with some watermelon juice. Everyone agreed, and Jack joked with the guildmaster. Of course, it'll be on your tab, right? The guildmaster protested, no way, but Jack responded, come on, one of your guild members defeated the strongest monster in the world. You're going to get a lot of rewards from the kingdom for this. But Felice, who was usually a bit scatterbrained, blurted out, no, it'll be on me. I mean, the princess. She quickly corrected herself, realizing she almost gave herself away. The next day, they all celebrated the demon's defeat. Luke asked Ellen, what are you drinking? Ellen replied, lemonade with mint, my friend. It's so refreshing. They all started chatting, but Elin was lost in thought, thinking. Finally, tomorrow is the potato harvest day. Felice noticed he was distracted and said, stop thinking about farming and try to have some fun for once. Elin responded, I do have fun. In the fields, Felice thanked him for saving the capital and said, I always knew you'd save us from that demon. Suddenly, they saw Helen showing off her new abilities to everyone, transforming her arms and legs into dragon limbs. What a show off. The next day, Ellen returned to his village to harvest his crops and asked Testa to help him. They harvested the entire field. Ellen then apologized to Testa. Sorry for always asking you to help with these things. Testa replied, no, I enjoy being with you. That's true friendship. Testa then asked, by the way, how are you going to manage both, this land and the one in the capital? You'll have to leave one of them, right? Ellen replied, no way. I would love farming too much to leave any land empty. Suddenly, the postman arrived at lightning speed. It turned out his name was Rex and handed Elin a letter from his father. Elin was surprised and asked, how did you find me? Rex replied, that's my job. Even if you were at the ends of the earth, I'd still find you. The postman's job is never done. Elin read the letter, but the problem was that it was written in terrible handwriting, like chicken, scratch. In the letter, Seon, Ellen's father, pleaded with Ellen, please visit us, or Lucica will kill me. Help me, I'm begging you. This was more like a cry for help than a letter. Seon continued, I even left money for the trip. Ellen asked Testa what he thought. Testa replied, you haven't seen them in over 10 years, man. Have some decency and go visit them. Ellen agreed. Okay, I'll visit them. After I finish my missions for the Adventurers Guild. The next day, Elin went to the capital, but a merchant caught his eye, selling some incredibly fresh-looking tomatoes. Being a farmer, Elin was immediately interested. He tried one and was blown away by its flavor. Where did you get these? Who grew them? He asked excitedly. The merchant told him to calm down, saying, it's just a tomato. Don't make a big deal out of it. But Elin insisted, no. This is a legendary tomato, and as a farmer, I need to know everything about it. The merchant finally explained. These tomatoes come from the village of Logos. They use a rare and powerful fertilizer, and that's why. But before the merchant could finish, Elin dashed off, flying towards the guild. He told Helen, I need to go visit my family right now. Helen was shocked. Wait, are you leaving? The guild? Is it because of me or one of the other adventurers? Ellen explained. My family lives in the village of Logos, and I need to visit them. Plus, I have to find out what kind of fertilizer they're using in their farming. Helen sighed with relief and said, why didn't you just say so? Sure, I'll assign your missions to someone else in the guild. Elin was shocked, but those are monster hunting missions. Helen reassured him. Don't worry, I've defeated plenty of monsters with the powers I got from the demon. So, Ellen set off to visit his family. Suddenly, Felice appeared in front of him and said, "You're going on a mission, right?" Ellen replied, No, I'm just going to visit my family." Felice insisted, "Then I have to come with you." Ellen declined, saying, "No, that's impossible." Felice got upset, and Ellen quickly reassured her, "I'll be back in a few days for my fields." Felice cheered up and asked again, "Can I come with you?" But Ellen had already run off, laughing to himself. "When it comes to farming, I even forget my own. Bother." Elin set off toward the village of Logos, excited to get his hands on that legendary fertilizer. But suddenly, a giant monster appeared and attacked him. Fortunately, a mysterious warrior appeared out of nowhere and saved Elin from the monster. Alan was completely exhausted and terrified of the monster. The girl asked if he was okay. Alan, unable to stand due to fear, admitted that orcs had given him a psychological complex. Their girl gave him some water to calm down, and Alan thanked her for saving him. Rory was the name of her. She asked why someone like him, who seemed so weak, was wandering in such a wild forest alone. Alan explained that he was working as an adventurer too. Rory was shocked that he was an adventurer, but was so weak, and the orc had really beaten him up. Alan admitted that he had a phobia of monsters. Rory asked where he was headed, and Alan replied he was going to a village called Logos. Rory said she was also heading to that village and suggested they go together. Alan was surprised by her trust in him. Rory asked what he would do. Alan said it was impossible to reach the village in one day, so they would have to sleep in the forest, where monsters might attack them. Rory assured him she would protect him and warned him not to try escaping, or she would beat him. Alan thought Rory was serious and was worried. Rory clarified she was just joking. Rory asked why Alan was going to Logos. Alan said he wanted to buy a special fertilizer. Rory didn't understand what he meant by special fertilizer. Alan started explaining how the fertilizer enhances the quality of tomatoes and increases their vitamins, which overwhelmed Rory. She said she wasn't interested in that. Rory then mentioned she had no place to live and no friends or family. Alan was surprised and offered her some of his food, which Rory found impressive. She started cooking some potatoes, and Alan was thrilled with the taste, explaining the mix of potatoes, tomatoes, and carrots. Rory told him to stop treating it like a chemistry lesson and just eat. Rory explained she was a wandering adventurer who took on monster hunting jobs. She had heard from a merchant that Logos was full of demons, and many people had seen them. Alan wondered why the Adventurers Guild hadn't addressed the issue. Rory said no one remembered much about them, so the guild couldn't solve the problem. Alan was curious why she risked her life with such dangerous missions. Rory revealed she was a descendant of the legendary hero who killed the Demon King. Alan was shocked to hear that she was the granddaughter of that hero. Rory said that's why she needed to eliminate these demons. They agreed to sleep where they were that night. Alan spread out his blanket to sleep outside, but Rory insisted he couldn't sleep alone due to potential dangers like orcs. Alan, frightened, went into the tent where Rory had already made herself comfortable. Rory's constant movement disturbed Alan, but he managed to sleep eventually. The next day, they arrived in Logos, and Alan was still sore from the night before. Rory thanked him and suggested they travel together after he finished his business. She gave him a map of a hotel where she would be staying. Alan went to Cyan's house, but suddenly a giant rocket launched him and wiped out part of the city. It was Lucica, who hugged Alan tightly, causing his ribs and neck to hurt. Lucica was emotional, saying she had been waiting for him for a long time. Alan thought Lucica was the best cook and cleaner, but she was also very strong. He begged her to let him breathe. Cyan saw someone strange with Lucica and got furious, punching Alan and breaking his teeth. Cyan said he didn't know who Alan was, but couldn't tolerate anyone speaking to Lucica like that. Lucica was enraged and told Cyan that Alan was her son. Cyan was terrified and apologized, saying he was only protecting her. Alan told Cyan he was indeed his son, not a stranger. Lucica then dragged Cyan into the house, and Cyan begged Alan to tell everyone his story. As usual, Cyan got a legendary beating. After that, Ellen came home and saw a lot of food, and Lucica started eating everything. Sane was sitting on the ground eating burnt chicken. What a sad scene, my friends. Let's return to Ellen. Lucica tells him that she made a lot of food, and he has to. Try everything. And indeed, Ellen ate a bit, but said that even Rory couldn't make food this sweet. But the problem was, Lucica heard Rory's name and said, "Of course my food is better, but who is this girl? Could she be your girlfriend?" Ellen was extremely nervous. Suddenly Sane said, "Finally we'll have many grandchildren." But then Lucica grabbed Sane and broke his back in half, and then she continued to beat him. What is this terror, guys? He's married to Juna Sina. Ellen was shocked and didn't know what to do, but he told them that Rory was a girl he met on the road, nothing more. Lucica stopped beating the poor guy and said to Ellen, "I guess I got carried away with my imagination." Oh my god, the poor guy was totally wrecked. Ellen thought, wow, what would have happened if I had brought Phallus with me? Lucica told him, "Don't think about another girl." Ellen was terrified and said, "No, I don't know any girls at all. What a nightmare." After hours, Ellen was sitting with Cyan in his room. San thanked him for saving his life, but the problem was there was a teacher's slap mark on Cyan's face, red and rusty. Ellen said it was strange that Lucica had changed and become more aggressive. Sane told him, "Unfortunately, it's all because of you. Lucica couldn't live away from you." Ellen apologized a million times, realizing that the poor guy had been living in hell. Sane said, "Anyway, I heard you came for a mission, right?" Ellen said, "Exactly. I came for the legendary fertilizer." Sane told him the fertilizer was located on the outskirts of the city. Ellen asked if he could show him the location on the map, and indeed, Sane pointed out all the places. But he asked, "Is this place really the Rory Hotel?" Sane was surprised, but there were no hotels in that place to begin with. Ellen was surprised and asked, "Have you seen demons in this city?" Sane said, "No, there are no demons in this city, and no one has seen a demon before. Even if a demon appeared, Lucica would know." Ellen wondered what was wrong with Lucica, and Seon hesitated, saying, "No, there's nothing at all. Anyway, you need to rest now." Ellen agreed and lay down on the bed next to Seon. Seon was shocked and said, No, this is my bed." Ellen told him, "I'll sleep here. There's no way I'm going to the other room," because Lucica was sitting on the bed waiting to talk to Eline for a while. Ellen told him, "Unfortunately, I'm sleeping here. Go find another place to sleep." Sane yelled, "No, please. If I go there, Lucica will tear me apart." At that time, Rory began asking the residents about demons, but unfortunately, no one had seen a demon at all. Rory was surprised, thinking that the merchant had lied to her, and she remembered her past of being ostracized from the village and unloved. Suddenly she heard someone asking for help. Rory went to see what was going on. The girl said that a demon had kidnapped her little brother and gone into the forest. Rory told her not to worry and that she would rescue him. Rory went to the forest. Meanwhile, Ellen started searching for the fertilizer, but a group of people gathered. The man told Ellen that a demon attacked him, but a girl with blue hair saved him and was now fighting demons alone. Ellen asked him to quickly tell him where the girl was. The man gave him the location, but the problem was that the man had tricked him. It turned out that these people were illusions created by strange magic. Oh, what a story. Returning to Ellen, he went to the forest to help Rory fight the demons, but suddenly saw a demon attacking a strange girl. Our friend saved her and killed the demon, but the problem was the girl turned into a demon and attacked him. But Rory saved Ellen at the last moment. Rory told him that there were a huge number of monsters. Suddenly, the evil merchant appeared and said, "Excellent. Excellent. This is expected from the descendant of the first hero." Rory recognized him, and it turned out he was the merchant who told her the location of the village. The merchant told her, "Unfortunately, you failed the test." Oh my god, what's happening? The merchant introduced himself as Loki Deva. Rory shouted that he had nothing to do with the fight, but Loki responded that he was the one they were looking for. Everyone was frozen in place. Loki told Ellen that he was the one who defeated Romeo, the demon vice president, and also defeated the legendary dragon Ouroboros. Ellen asked if those were his friends or what. Loki replied that he was far above those scum. Suddenly, Rory attacked him, but the sly Loki dodged the attack and even injured her. He saved her with healing magic. Loki was surprised and said he should start with Ellen first. Rory apologized, saying she was just a hindrance. and didn't know how to help. Alan reassured her not to worry, claiming he was the legendary Potato King and wouldn't lose to someone as pathetic as Loki. He attacked, but to his shock, Loki grabbed his arm and threw him away. Elin had incredible agility and attacked faster, but Loki evaded the attack and struck back, shattering the ground in the forest. The power was immense. Loki was ruthless, but Elin managed to escape the pit and retaliated with a painful punch to Loki's face. Loki became furious and knocked Elin out, wiping him across the forest. Elin didn't give up and used his healing magic on himself, but the shocking part was that Loki had incredible regenerative power. The effects of Elin's strike vanished quickly. He asked what Loki meant. Loki responded that he knew Elin was trying to buy time, but he would go along with it. The reason was that Loki would eliminate anyone who might obstruct his plan, including Elin and the heroine next to him, and also the girl who gained the legendary dragon's power, referring to Helen. Loki continued that since Elin was a hero, he must have gained the power of the Angel of Goodness, and the opposite was true for the Demon King. Rory shouted, asking how that was possible since the Demon King's power should have weakened after being defeated. Loki told them enough chatter, and it was time to destroy humanity. Suddenly, strange worm-like monsters emerged from the ground. They attacked, but Elin easily avoided them and saved Rory. Rory gathered her strength and defeated the monsters along with Alan. Loki became enraged and used some of his magical power, summoning a small purple core and attacking them. The place was completely destroyed. Alan and Rory were in a dire situation. Loki told Alan that, unfortunately for him, these parasites would absorb his magic and power completely. If he tried to remove them, his body would be destroyed. Now it was time to end the fake heroine. Rory began to remember her past when her family encouraged her to become a hero, but later, everyone criticized her for being weak. Suddenly the parasites were destroyed and turned into dust. It turned out that the legendary fertilizer had destroyed the parasites because it was an insect and parasite killer. Loki said that even. If his monsters were destroyed, Alan's body was full of wounds and he wouldn't be able to do anything. He gathered all his strength and attacked, but it was useless. Loki easily avoided the attack as if he were playing. Suddenly, Rory stabbed Loki from behind, catching him off guard, but the shock was that the stab was ineffective. Loki healed rapidly and told Rory that her weak power was not enough to defeat him. Suddenly, immense energy erupted from Rory. It was the power of the Angel of Justice, and with a swift strike, Rory split Loki in half. Alan was stunned by Rory's power, but then fainted from exhaustion. After hours, Alan woke up, and Rory told him he had been sleeping for 2 hours, and she had to wait for him to wake up because she didn't know the way to the village. Alan and Rory then headed to the village. Suddenly, Rory heard a strange voice shouting, "No, no, they will kill me." He was surprised and asked if she was afraid of ghosts. Rory yelled that, of course, she was afraid. She could handle monsters and villains, but ghosts were too much. The strange part was that the voice was calling for Elin, and it turned out to be Lucica looking for Alan. Alan was terrified that Lucica might find Rory and hurt her. Elin picked up Rory and ran as fast as he could. Rory laughed, saying even Ellen was afraid of ghosts. Alan responded that ghosts were 1,000,000 times scarier. After a few minutes, Alan separated from Rory and went home, thinking about how Lucica had looked for him in the forest a long time ago. As soon as he returned home, Lucica confronted him and now pretended to be outside. But when he opened the door, Lucica appeared in front of him. Alan quickly shut the door, but Lucica appeared behind him. Alan sprinted inside and Sane welcomed him. But suddenly, Alan entered the room and locked the door. Sane yelled, "No, no, open the door!" But it was useless. Lucica took out all her anger on poor Sane, who was crushed. The next day, Lucica held Alan, not wanting him to leave, and Sane was still hanging on the clothesline from the previous day. Sane told Lucica that Alan had grown up and needed to live and adapt to the world. Lucica responded that he should be quiet and that he had no say in the matter. Aelin said he had to return to the land and check on his precious potatoes. Lucica asked him if his reason for planting was regret about what happened to Olivia. Alan replied that he loved farming, nothing more. Later, Ellen met Rory after buying some of the legendary fertilizer. Rory asked him why Loki targeted him. Alan said he didn't know. Rory suggested that he might be targeted by demons, and Ellen replied that it could also apply to her, as she was a hero. If she ever needed help, she should call him quickly. Rory had a strawberry heart face. Meanwhile, the king summoned Phallus, and the shocking part was that the king had to arrange a marriage for Phallus with a prince from another country. The king apologized for everything. The next day, Alan and Rory arrived at the guild. Ellen introduced Rory to Helen, who asked her what her relationship with Ellen was. Rory replied that they shared a life and death fate together. Helen was about to explode with anger, but held herself back and welcomed Rory. Ellen felt relieved, as he expected them to argue, but suddenly, Rory said she couldn't leave Alan behind. Helen shouted at her to shut up, calling her a lizard. It was no use, the girls were arguing over Ellen, the Potato King. What a mess. A few days later, Rory and Helen went to Alan's farm to help with the harvest. They suddenly saw Alan holding a small child by the back of his neck, revealing that the child had stolen some of Alan's produce. Helen told him that what the child did was a crime, and Alan shouted at the child, threatening to turn him into fertilizer if he came near his crops. The child apologized, saying he hadn't stolen potatoes, but just some cabbage. Alan, feeling sorry for him, gave him a cabbage, lettuce-like vegetable. The boy was shocked by its sweetness and remembered his younger sister, Olivia. Helen told Elin that the situation was grim due to repeated demon attacks, which had made food exorbitantly expensive. Suddenly, the city bell rang, signaling a demon attack. Aelin and the others rushed to help the adventurers and guards, but it wasn't just an ordinary attack. It was a full demon army. Aelin and the others managed to kill many of them, but their numbers were overwhelming. Out of nowhere, a strange army appeared. The leader shouted the name of the King of Innsbruck and warned them to flee or face the legendary sword Liftern. The monsters began to retreat. Who was this person, and what was the legendary sword Liftern? Hours later, Alan was cleaning his axe, enjoying the moment when Phallus knocked on the door. Alan was surprised to see her there and asked what she was doing. Phallus replied that she came to say goodbye. He was confused and asked when she would return. Phallus said, sadly, she wouldn't be coming back. Aelin was stunned and didn't know how to respond. Suddenly, a servant told Phallus that it was time to leave quickly. Alan was in shock, unable to grasp what was happening. Phallus thanked him for everything and left. A few days later, demon attacks on villages stopped, thanks to the Liftern sword. Trade also returned to normal. Suddenly, a child and his mother appeared, the same child who had stolen from Aelin's farm. His mother apologized for what happened. The boy exclaimed that it was the best cabbage he had ever eaten. His mother offered Alan help from her clothing shop in the city if he needed anything, and Aelin thanked her. Suddenly, Rex appeared, and Aelin panicked. A young man showed up with a message from Lucica, which turned out to be a newspaper. To Aelin's shock, it announced Phallus's marriage to Prince Antisberg, who had saved them from the demons. At that time, Rory and Helen were having breakfast and saw the same news about the princess's marriage, which seemed to be a political move to protect the city of Migas from demons. Rory said that demons don't understand human language, so why would they listen to Prince Antisberg? It seemed like a big problem. Suddenly, Alan appeared and asked them about Philia's whereabouts. Helen replied that, unfortunately, Philia had been missing for some time. Alan said everything was clear now and told them to read Lucica's message. The message was full of declarations of love for Alan, which shocked him. He tore up the letter, feeling embarrassed. Helen and Rory continued reading the message, which revealed that the Liftern sword wasn't legendary at all, but just an ordinary sword made by a simple blacksmith. Everyone was shocked. How did Lucica know this? Aelin told them to keep reading, and the biggest surprise was that Lucica was the former leader of the Shadow Dolls. Helen and Rory were stunned. Alan responded that he didn't know anything about them. Rory explained that the Shadow Dolls were the strongest intelligence team in the world, gathering all information, even if it was underground. Lucica continued, revealing that Prince Antisberg, who saved Migus, was actually a demon, not a prince. The demon was using this pretense because the prince had captured his girlfriend. They learned that the treacherous Prince Antisberg had used the demon to attack Migus and protect them in exchange for seeking Phallus's hand in marriage. It was a cunning plan. Aelin shouted that they needed to rescue Phallus quickly. Rory and Helen were shocked, wondering if he knew the princess. Aelin interrupted them, saying no, she was from their village, and protecting her was part of their duty. Helen admitted she was convinced. He said that the city of Antisberg was heavily guarded and not easily penetrable, with strict and powerful defenses. Suddenly, Rex appeared and told them not to worry. He had the perfect solution. Meanwhile, in Antisberg, a meeting was taking place between the kings of various countries, all seeking protection from Prince Antisberg, whose name was Nidelius. Nidelius told them that unfortunately they had only one sword. One of the kings offered half of his wealth, and another offered to sell goods at reduced prices. None of them knew that Nidelius was deceitful and exploiting them. However, Demon Gazelle was extremely frustrated and did not want to attack humans. Nidelius slapped him and ordered him to comply, threatening that his beloved would be lost. Gazel had no choice but to obey the prince's command. Suddenly, Phallus stormed in, shouting about the situation and that it was unacceptable to strike someone this way. Nidelius replied that he had to use some violence to control the kingdom. At that moment, a guard entered the room, saying there was a major problem. Nidelius told him to speak calmly. The guard said the ceremonial carriage was delayed. Nidelius was furious, saying that nobles and aristocrats from all countries would be present at the ceremony. The guard promised to resolve the issue as quickly as possible. Nidelius apologized to Phallus for what happened and invited her to apple juice, but Phallus refused, saying she didn't drink such nonsense. Nidelius asked why she was so angry, noting that she hadn't smiled since arriving in the city. Phallus replied that her life had been in a different country. Nidelius told her she would come to like the place over time because it was a flourishing and wealthy country, though all the wealth was ill-gotten. At this time, the guard sent a message with a pigeon, revealing that the guard was Rex's accomplice. Now Aelin and the others had a chance to enter Antisberg. Aelin went to a tailor, got some clothes, and returned to Helen and Rory. Rex told them that the message from his partner had arrived, and the carriage would pass into Antisberg easily. Anyone who tried to stop them should be told that the carriage carried goods for the prince's celebration. Everyone was surprised, asking if Rex wouldn't come with them. Rex replied that he needed to gather a demon army to attack Antisberg and prove that Nidelius' sword was fake and useless. Their mission would be to rescue the hostage. Helen was curious about how Rex would gather demons, and Rex revealed that he was a member of the Shadow Dolls and a demon himself. Everyone was shocked. Rex explained that many demons disguised as humans to coexist, which had been his situation since childhood, and Lucica had taken care of him. The demon controlled by Nidelius loved a human girl, and Nidelius had captured her to use the demon for his own purposes. Aelin reassured him not to worry. They would save the girl and rescue Phallus from the treacherous Nidelius. Meanwhile, Phallus wanted to see Alan again, but Nidelius was spying on her, wondering who Alan was. On the second day, everyone was happy because of the prince's wedding. At this time, Nidelius was thinking about how, after the wedding, he would finally ascend to the throne and become the king. With the legendary sword, he would marry Princess Megus and gain immense power and wealth from the neighboring countries. Nidelius entered Valus's room and told her it was time to complete the wedding ceremony. Valus responded that he should go ahead and she would catch up soon. Nidelios said not to make him wait too long, and he left the room. Valis began to think about her father's words, telling her she could marry anyone she loved and her. Happiness was most important. However, she was doing this for the sake of the country. Meanwhile, En and the others sneaked into the city, only to find it full of guards and people. En told them not to worry. They wouldn't be discovered in their farmer disguises. Helen asked what their plan was and replied that the first thing they needed to do was rescue Giselle, take her to a safe place, and have her tell everyone that the prince's sword was a mere trick. Suddenly, a guard appeared. Before Aelin could finish his sentence, the guard shouted, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" Alan responded that they were just simple farmers delivering vegetables to the party. The guard was confused as to why they would need vegetables at the event, and Alan said it was for fresh, tasty vegetables. The guard was convinced, but then the guard started chasing them, realizing they were intruders. Helen used dragon power to throw Alan to a distant place to escape, but he crashed into a tower and destroyed a wall with his head. The big surprise was that Alan accidentally entered Giselle's room. The guard stormed in, and En grabbed 2 radishes as weapons, declaring himself a farmer. He fought off the guards with vegetables, shouting that they needed to escape quickly. Giselle tried to run, but the evil Nidelios placed a metal ball on her leg to prevent her from escaping. Aelin, the legendary hero, lifted it and got out of the place. He soon met Helen and Rory, and they continued fleeing from the soldiers. Suddenly, they heard the sound of celebration bells. Helen and Rory told En to quickly save Valis from the pathetic prince while they dealt with the soldiers. Alan and the others separated from. At that moment, the king and Valis were at the celebration, approaching Nidelios. Nidelios began speaking, asking if Valis agreed to marry him, and the wedding was about to happen. Suddenly, Alan burst into the room and smashed Nidelios into the door. Valis was extremely happy. Nidelios yelled, "Are you the wretch Valis talks about? Quickly, arrest him." He replied, "Stop fooling around with your fake sword." Everyone was shocked. Nidelios laughed, hysterically, making a joke. Valis's father told Alan that, unfortunately, the sword was real, as he had seen it split monsters. Nidelios seized the opportunity, claiming no one would believe someone like Aelin. Everyone believed the sword was legendary and would save people. He said he had conclusive evidence. Suddenly, a guard shouted that monsters had surrounded the entire city. Rex had gathered all the monsters and ordered them to attack Nidelios using a magical flute. The nobles shouted to use the legendary sword quickly. Nidelios was extremely anxious and shouted for Giselle. Giselle appeared with her girlfriend. Rex asked the prince if he wanted to use the sword himself. Nidelios didn't know what to do. Alan took the sword and threw it to the monsters to prove it was fake, and indeed, the monster broke the sword with its teeth. Giselle revealed everything, saying the prince had used it to attack countries and used the magical flute to command the monsters to retreat. The king asked Nidelios what was happening. He started laughing hysterically, saying everything was over. Megas was being destroyed because the treacherous Nidelios had sent armies of monsters to attack and make Megas part of his land. The king shouted to send reinforcements, quickly. Nidelios replied that time was up. Helen and Rory appeared, stating it was impossible for Megas to be destroyed. The adventurers knew about the attack and gathered all fighters to defend Megas. The king cried with joy. Suddenly, Nidelios' guards appeared, and the prince ordered them to capture the intruders. The guards threw down their weapons. Helen and Rory explained everything. Nidelios was furious and attacked the king, wanting to finish off anyone before he died, but Alan stopped his attack. Finally, Nidelios was captured. Alan was relieved. Valis hugged him, thanking him. Everyone was shocked. Rory shouted, asking how Alan knew the princess. He tried to calm Valis, but it didn't work. Rory was extremely angry. Alan asked the king for help and begged him. The king responded that Alan had saved them twice and congratulated him on marrying the princess. He was then put in a corner. Moments later, Rex gave the king a letter that was meant for Nidelios from an unknown person. The shock was that the letter contained all the details of Nidelios's plan. The king was shocked that there was an even greater evil than Nidelios. It seemed things were going to get very intense. After days, Aelin and the others returned to the Adventurers Guild. The leader welcomed Alan and thanked him because everyone had started requesting services from the guild. Suddenly, the princess appeared and gave them money and gold as thanks for saving the city. The leader said everyone would get their share. Helen mentioned she felt she had seen the princess before and might have met her by chance. Alan couldn't handle it and replied, "Definitely, definitely," and said there was a girl with them who looked exactly like her. Indeed, Valis had changed her clothes and entered disguised. Valis told Rory to be careful because there were many competitors and she wouldn't let Alan go easily. Rory was very angry. Alan said he would go check on his wonderful potatoes. The tomatoes and vegetables were excellent, all thanks to the legendary magical fertilizer. Suddenly, Rory and Val appeared, shouting that N had to decide whom he liked more. Alan answered that tomatoes were his only love. Rory shouted that he had saved her from ghosts and monsters, and Val shouted that she had traveled to distant lands for his help. Aelin replied that radishes were the best solution. Rory and Val shouted not to let him love another girl. He said exactly that and ran away. Rory and Val exploded with anger, thinking he had ruined everything. After a few days, Alan was fighting a giant dragon in the forest and easily defeated it. But suddenly, he saw a girl who had fainted. Alan took her home with him. The next day, the girl, who introduced herself as Linya, woke him up. Linya asked, "How did I end up here? Wait a minute, don't tell me you're a thief and kidnapped me." Alan quickly reassured her, No, don't worry. I found you in the forest and had to help you." Linya, still suspicious, questioned him. "You're not a slave trader trying to sell me in the market, are you?" Alan exclaimed, "For heaven's sake, what's wrong with you? I was just trying to help, nothing more. The important thing is that you're okay." Linya then asked him, "Can you show me the way to the Adventurers Guild? I have a request to make." Alan replied, "What do you think about coming with me? I'm heading to the guild right now." Suddenly, Rory opened the door, looking for Alan, and was shocked to see Linya wearing his coat. Rory froze in her place, and Linya, feeling tense, asked, "Who are you?" Rory dashed out of the room, sprinting away. Alan knew he was in trouble and quickly explained everything to Helen so she could explain it to Rory. More importantly, Linya had a request for the guild. Linya explained to Helen that the people in her village had been acting strangely. Helen, confused, asked, "Okay, but what's the problem?" "We need more information before the adventurers can accept your request." Linya then asked Alan, "Are you a strong adventurer or just mediocre?" Alan replied jokingly, "I get by." Linya then asked for his help, and of course, Alan, being a softie, couldn't refuse a request from a cute girl like her. He accepted the mission, but if it had been Jafar asking for help, Alan would have thrown him in the trash. Helen said, "Great, you'll take on Linya's mission, but first, what's the name of your village?" Linya replied, "My village is called Galad." Alan was shocked the moment he heard the name, and everyone else was puzzled. Alan exclaimed, "That village is famous for its legendary asparagus. It's amazing." He then went on to praise the asparagus for half an hour, the farmer's passion showing through. Alan begged Linya, "Please send my regards to it. It's a legendary honor to meet a resident of the legendary Galad." Helen warned Linya, "Be careful, he is obsessed with agriculture. Don't be scared of him. He's kind, but a bit of a fool at the same time." A few minutes later, he bought new clothes for Linya. Linya, still suspicious, said, "I don't trust you. You might rob me during the journey." Alan responded, "Impossible. I'm a legendary farmer." Linya replied, "My father told me that all people are wolves in disguise, just waiting for the chance to rob me." He was on the verge of a nervous breakdown, not knowing what to do. Linya then said, Okay, don't cry. I'll keep an eye on you closely until I'm sure you're human." The real problem arose when Rory saw them together again. Trouble was chasing our hero like a shadow. After some time, they they finally found a wagon heading to the city of Galed. The merchants had cut off trade with Galed because of the villagers' strange behavior, but suddenly, a giant ghoul started chasing the wagon. Alan was terrified, but the merchant reassured him, "Don't worry, it's just one ghoul." However, when the merchant looked back, he saw a massive army of ghouls. He fainted from fear. Hours later, Alan woke up, still terrified, but he noticed a necklace around his neck. Linya told him, "This necklace is for calming nerves, just like the one I wear." He thanked her. Moments later, they finally arrived in the city of Galed. The guards stopped Alan and asked, "Who are you, you rascal?" Linya said, "He's with me." And they let them in. Who could Linya be? She must have a high position in the city. But the strangest thing was that the guards were holding brooms instead of weapons. Were they going to sweep away intruders instead of killing them? Forgive me, Lord, for this mockery. Anyway, the city was bustling with people. Alan ordered some asparagus shawarma and asked the vendor, "I've heard there's something strange happening in the city. Is that true?" The vendor replied nervously, No, there's nothing strange," and handed them the shawarma. But the disaster was that it was burnt to a crisp. Alan was shocked. Could this really be the traditional way to eat asparagus? Linya quickly corrected him. Definitely not. The shock came when the vendor repeated, "There's no problem." His eyes filled with fear. Suddenly, another vendor collapsed to the ground. Alan tried to help him, but it was no use. Everyone in the city seemed scared, but why and how? Two men grabbed Alan and dragged him away. They thought he was a person for sale. Moments later, Alan and Linya arrived at her house, which turned out to be a large shop selling necklaces and gemstones. Linya explained, "This stone protects people from magical curses, which is why I wasn't affected like the rest of the townspeople." Alan, puzzled, asked, "But where are your family members?" Linya, clearly anxious, replied, "Unfortunately, I don't know. They disappeared days ago." Something serious must have happened. The next day, Alan went back to the city, but the townspeople were still acting strangely. One vendor was spilling juice on the ground, and the shawarma vendor was burning things. Something was seriously wrong. Suddenly, a strange man accompanied by guards appeared. Alan, curious, asked, "Who are you?" The man replied, "I am the head of Galed, and my name is Ramul." He got excited. "Finally, I've met the king of the legendary asparagus." Ramul said, "That's not important. How did you get that necklace?" Alan replied, "I got it from a girl. Anyway, I have a lot of questions. Could you answer them?" Ramul said, "Of course, but it's a long story," and invited him to dinner at his palace. Alan got even more excited. Suddenly, two men grabbed him and ran off. They still thought he was merchandise. Hours later, Alan and Linya arrived at Ramul's palace. While wandering the palace, Alan noticed a million pictures of asparagus. This king must be obsessed with the plant in a crazy way. Alan asked Ramul about what was happening to the townspeople. Ramul replied, "It's a long story, and I'm not obliged to tell you." Suddenly, the guards surrounded Alan with their weapons. Ramul said, "I have a request for you." He didn't listen and swiftly took down the guards. Alan charged at Ramul, but Linya stepped in his way. What was going on? A demon emerged from Ramul's body, screaming, "I am the legendary noble demon Ritra." Alan, still confused, listened as Ritra explained, "My power is controlling humans, but the maximum number I can control is just one. So I used Linya's magical stones to control the entire town, because I placed one of those stones in the legendary statue, the largest statue in Galed. Finally, I'll head to the royal capital. But before all that, I heard about a warrior who defeated Romeo and the Black Dragon. If I control him, I can destroy the capital easily. In other words, you were my target from the beginning." With Linya's help, the plan became much easier. Linya cried out, "All of this just because you held my family hostage?" Alan finally understood the situation. Ritra then said, "There's no time to run." Alan threw a crystal that emitted a bright light. Ritra was shocked. "What's happening?" Suddenly, the legendary statue was completely destroyed, and the soldiers and townspeople returned to their normal selves. Ritra, terrified, asked, "What did you do, you wretch?" Alan replied, "My friends destroyed the statue." Ritra was stunned. "But how? Linya was watching you 24/7. He explained, "No, my friend. I managed to escape from her when the merchants kidnapped me, and it turned out the merchants were Helen and Rory. I told them everything and asked them to destroy the giant statue as soon as I destroyed the glowing crystal." Alan continued, "There's no escape now, you cunning demon." Ritra retorted, "I still have a hostage, the head of the town." Alan shouted, "Impossible! I know the chief loves the legendary asparagus and kept eating it non-stop. I know you love it too." The shock came when the chief broke free from the demon's control. Ritra screamed, "How could I lose to a mere human?" Alan punched him so hard that he sent him flying all the way to Mars. Hours later, Linya thanked him for saving her city. The next day, Alan and the others began harvesting his farm, full of legendary potatoes and tomatoes. The harvest was excellent, thanks to the legendary fertilizer he got from the village of Logos. Valis and the others were helping out, but Valis noticed Helen and Rory's necklaces and asked them what those were and why they all wore the same one. Rory replied that it was a gift from Alan, and the necklace protects them from curses. Valis was upset and wondered where her necklace was. Suddenly, she came up with a brilliant idea. He must have one for her, and she needed to get it from him by any means necessary so they could match. Rory shot down the idea, saying it was impossible because they earned the necklace by saving the city of Galid. Helen added that Valis needed to consider Alan and Linya's feelings as well. Valis was shocked. Who was Linya? As if the situation wasn't complicated enough, now there was another competitor for Alan's attention. Suddenly, Alan shouted loudly, startling everyone. They wondered if a demon or monster had attacked, but he pointed out something else. They all looked puzzled until Alan yelled, "Look at that!" The enemy was 1,000,000 times stronger than monsters. It was weeds. Helen and the others were confused, so he explained that these weeds absorbed the nutrients from the plants and were incredibly hard to remove. The weeds were destroying his precious potatoes. A little later, Alan and the others went to the market to sell their produce and buy weed killer. Business was booming as the townsfolk and adventurers flocked to buy Alan's fresh and delicious fruits and vegetables. Suddenly, the king appeared in the market, disguised in a cloak to avoid being recognized. Fortunately, Valis hid, or else he would have recognized her. Alan was puzzled and asked what the king was doing there. The king replied that he was just an ordinary customer and asked for all the daikon radishes Alan had. Alan played along and gave him the last 2. The king then asked him if he had ever considered joining their family. He said the fields were ready, the house was ready, and they even had a palace. He declined, saying he wasn't prepared for such things. The king then asked if he would be interested in receiving some fields in the northern region, along with the latest farming tools. Alan got super excited at the thought of land, farming, fields, and tools. Rory screamed, "No, no, think this over, don't rush into it." But Valis threw a potato at Rory to let Alan agree. The potato hit him instead, knocking him out. But the strange part was that he started hearing a mysterious voice calling him in his dreams. When he opened his eyes, he saw an angel in front of him. She said, "I am," but then stopped. Alan was confused, and the angel continued, "We will meet in reality soon." A few hours later, Alan had sold all the vegetables, made a large sum of money, and thanked Valis and Rory for their help. Suddenly, he got super angry and shouted, "Finally, I can buy weed killer and destroy those weeds." Valis and Rory got nervous and ran away. Alan kept repeating, "I'll destroy them, crush them, burn them." He was out for revenge against the weeds. Afterward, Alan ran into Rix, who was shocked by Alan's appearance. He explained that deadly weeds had ruined his precious potatoes, which was why he had bought weed killer. Now he was going to wipe them out. Just then, they saw 2 men holding a little girl. He tried to help her, but one of the men pulled out a knife and attacked him, and he dodged the attack and beat him up. The second man attacked, but it was useless. These guys were weak. They couldn't touch the legendary Potato King. Of course, the last one ran away, but the twist was that the little girl was also a demon, just like Rix, and her name was Yuria. Rix recognized her and told her not to worry because he was like her. Alan was confused, so Rix explained that Yuria was the only daughter of the Demon King. Alan was even more surprised. What was the heir doing in the royal capital? Yuria begged them, "Please, can you help the demons?" He told her to calm down and explain everything. Yuria told them that a short time ago, while she was playing in her room, Duma, the one responsible for protecting her and assisting the Demon King, suddenly ordered her to leave as quickly as possible because they were in danger. Duma opened a giant portal and sent Yuria to the royal capital. Yuria cried, "There must be a problem in the Demon City. We have to save it as soon as possible." Rix replied that, unfortunately, the Demon City was in the second part of the ocean, and it would take at least 3 days by ship to get there. Alan said, "Leave this task to me." But first, he wanted her to take the weed killer and deal with the weeds ruining his farm. Rix asked, "Wait, how are you going to get to the Demon City? Are you going to take a ship or what?" Alan replied, "There's no time." And then, to everyone's surprise, Alan grabbed Yuria and ran across the water towards the Demon City. What a funny scene. After a while, they arrived at the Demon Island. Yuria thanked him, and Alan was reminded of his little sister, Olivia. Suddenly, Duma appeared. Yuria was overjoyed, but Alan felt something strange. Yuria told him not to worry, as Duma would protect her from everything. However, Duma suddenly attacked them with strange magic. Fortunately, he dodged the attack at the last moment. Duma didn't stop and kept attacking with a barrage of fire spells. Alan tried to keep him away from Yuria, but Duma abandoned the attack and went after Yuria. Alan blocked the attack and retaliated with a quick strike, but to his surprise, Duma dodged it and delivered a punch that severely injured Alan. However, he didn't give up and kicked Duma hard enough to break his teeth. Shockingly, Duma stood up again and gathered all his magical power. Suddenly, Lucica appeared behind Duma and defeated him easily. Alan was shocked and asked, "What are you doing here?" Lucica replied that Rix had told her everything, and she couldn't leave him alone on Demon Island. "Don't worry," she added, "Duma will wake up in a bit." Alan said he suspected that someone was controlling Duma, but it was strange because he was incredibly strong. Yuria explained that Duma was the most powerful magic user on Demon Island. Lucica suggested they head to the royal palace to solve the problem. To their shock, most of the guards were either unconscious or dead. Yuria went to check on the king, and unfortunately, he was severely injured but still alive. Alan tried to get some information from a soldier who was still conscious. The soldier was overjoyed to see that Yuria was safe and told Alan that everything was due to the demon girl. Suddenly, he screamed, "Run away quickly!" The biggest shock came when Lucica tried to kill Yuria. What was happening? Alan stopped her at the last moment. Lucica warned him to get out of her way or she would tear him apart. He refused, saying, "You can't be the Lucica I know." Lucica was puzzled and asked what he meant. He replied, "The Lucica I know would never raise a sword against me. She goes crazy when she sees me and hugs me until my ribs crack." Lucica started laughing loudly and said she didn't expect her disguise to be revealed so quickly. She then revealed her true form, and the biggest shock? It turned out to be Olivia. But how? Nathan froze in place, thinking, "You're supposed to be dead." Olivia replied, "All thanks to the Demon Queen. You should know, she's incredibly powerful and kind. She has the power to destroy all the world's pain and sorrow. Look at this." She created a giant magical orb, saying, "This is the power of the Angel of Evil." Nathan took a defensive stance as Olivia attacked Yuria. The shockwave from the attack not only shattered the palace, but also obliterated the mountains behind it. What kind of crazy power is this? Nathan thought, as he barely managed to save Yuria in the nick of time. However, seeing the devastation to the palace and the mountain, he froze, unable to do anything. Olivia continued, "I could destroy the world in less than a second, But what's strange is that you haven't activated the power of the Angel of Evil. Nathan was confused. What are you talking about? Olivia reminded him, don't you remember the first day of the harvest when you gained strong skills and immense magical power? That was all thanks to the Angel of Evil. Nathan still didn't understand. But how? I've never met her. Olivia replied, you did, but you just don't remember. And the most important thing is, what do you say? Join us, and I'll tell you everything. She used a strange mind control magic, but Yuria managed to save Nathan just in time. Olivia was furious, grabbing Yuria by the neck. Nathan tried to save her, but it was no use. Olivia was too strong. She said, if you join us, I'll spare your friends. But if you refuse, I'll finish them off before you even notice. Nathan, now completely enraged, watched as Olivia gathered her power, preparing to finish Yuria off. Suddenly, Nathan's pendant started glowing strangely, and time froze. Nothing moved except for Nathan. What's going on? He wondered. Then an angel of light appeared, saying, I've wanted to meet you for a long time, but the Angel of Evil blocked my way. However, thanks to that pendant, I could finally reach you. Now, I'll give you the power of the Angel of Good. Nathan gained immense power, but the angel warned him. This power isn't fully developed yet, but it will help you face your enemies. With this new strength, Nathan managed to stop Olivia, but to his surprise, his power only manifested as a small plant growing in the ground. What? He thought, but then the small plant rapidly spread, binding Olivia from all sides. Olivia was furious, cutting through the plants easily. She drew a magical sword and attacked Nathan. He tried to defend himself with the plants, but the power was incredibly weak, though it multiplied quickly every time Olivia cut it. Suddenly, Duma appeared and attacked Olivia with demonic fire magic, but it had no effect. Olivia was too powerful and retaliated with force. However, she soon grew bored of the fight, saying, "This battle is so boring, we'll meet again," and then disappeared. Duma, now furious, grabbed Nathan, demanding, "What's your relationship with that girl? Answer me." The Demon King intervened, telling Duma to calm down. This young man saved Yuria. He asked Nathan to explain everything about the girl. Nathan told them everything and asked about the Angel of Evil. The king replied, "Unfortunately, we don't know much about her, but there were conflicts between her and my ancestors. The problem is, all the records were destroyed, but as soon as we discover anything, we'll let you know." Nathan returned to his village, thinking about Olivia's words, that he had met the Angel of Evil before. All he could think about was the time he went to the forest with Tetsa, entered a strange cave, and saw a giant dragon. Maybe that was the Angel of Evil? He then met Tetsa and asked if he could remember anything. But unfortunately, Tetsa couldn't recall anything. After they ate some tomatoes, carrots, and eggplants, Nathan headed back to the capital. Suddenly, a ghoul appeared behind him. For the first time, Nathan kept his cool and punched it, but strangely, the ghoul didn't seem affected. Nathan sprinted away from the scene, thinking, "I can defeat a legendary dragon, but I can't even touch a lousy ghoul." Luckily, Jack and the others took care of the ghoul. Lamia was puzzled. Could it be that your power has weakened? How can you not defeat a simple ghoul? Hours later, Nathan returned to the guild and told Rory and Helen what had happened. Rory was surprised. There's no way a ghoul could withstand one of Nathan's punches so easily. Helen asked, "Can you show me your stats?" Sure enough, Nathan's strength had significantly decreased, likely due to losing the power of the Angel of Evil. But despite that, he would eventually gain the power of the Angel of Good, though not immediately. Just then, Rex appeared with a letter from Lucica. Lucica wrote, "You're reading this letter with the girls, aren't you?" Helen and Rory were terrified. "No way, she's watching us too?" Lucica continued, "If any of you try to touch Nathan, I'll crush you into dust. Understand?" Helen and Rory froze. "No, we won't keep reading. Finish it yourself." They laughed nervously as Nathan read on, discovering the letter was filled with declarations of love from Lucica. A few moments later, Valis appeared, asking Nathan to go out with her. Of course, Helen and Rory wouldn't let Nathan go alone, and they started arguing. Luke then suggested to Nathan, "How about we go get some juice together?" The girls yelled at him, and Luke quickly fled the scene. "I don't need any more trouble." After a few minutes, Nathan returned to his field and started planting potatoes, eggplants, and tomatoes. Hilarious. And that's it, my friend. This was the final part of the anime, The Potato Thief. Did you enjoy it or not? Don't worry, there's a second season coming soon. We'll summarize it as soon as it's released. Don't forget the amazing gift I left for you in the first comment. See you in the next videos. Peace out, man.